You've probably felt it, right? That kind of economic whiplash. One minute you're seeing headlines about a booming market, everything's great. The next, you hear whispers about layoffs, or maybe your friends are talking about a recession. It really feels like the U.S. economy is sending some seriously mixed signals.
So, what is actually going on here? I mean, is the economy truly strong and resilient, or is it secretly fragile, maybe even heading for a fall? To get to the bottom of it, we really have to look at both sides of the story.
And this is the heart of the confusion, right here. On one side, you've got the official story. The S&P 500 is hitting record highs, which is like the textbook sign of a roaring economy. But on the other side, there's just this feeling. It's this deep unease that a lot of people have, that the classic warning signs of a recession are flashing bright red.
So let's start with the good news. Let's make the case for a strong economy. And honestly, there's no better place to start than a sector that acts like a massive engine for growth: business travel.
Get this, in 2022 alone, business travel spending in the U.S. topped $421 billion. To put that into perspective for you, that's more than the entire economic output of countries like Denmark or Ireland. It's just a huge river of cash flowing straight through the economy.
And a river that big creates a massive wake. All that spending supports a staggering 6 million American jobs. And we're not just talking about pilots and hotel staff. We're talking about restaurant workers, convention center crews, cab drivers, you name it. Countless people's livelihoods depend on this engine.
Now, the total ripple effect, it's even bigger. When you factor in all the related activity, business travel's total contribution to the U.S. GDP, that's, the value of everything we make and do in the country, was over $484 billion. That means this one single sector makes up almost 2% of the entire U.S. economy.
And of course, these giant numbers aren't just data points on a spreadsheet. They represent real, actual activity on the ground. Think bustling downtowns, packed convention halls, and local businesses doing great in places like Florida, which is a huge destination for travelers. This is what a strong economic engine really looks like in action.
And here's the real kicker. Business travel has this incredible multiplier effect. For every single dollar that gets spent on a business trip, it actually generates an extra 15 cents in new value for the economy. It's a sector that really punches way above its weight.
But, even inside this strong sector, the story gets a little complicated. So look at the map on the left. That shows total spending, where giants like California and Texas just dominate. But now look at the map on the right. This one shows how dependent a state's economy is on that travel money. And all of a sudden, places like Nevada and Hawaii just light up. It's a perfect example of how the way you measure the economy can tell two completely different stories.
Okay, so that's a pretty strong case for a booming economy, right? But now we have to flip the coin. Let's look at the other side of this thing. The one where some serious warning lights are starting to flash on the dashboard.
Back in July of 2025, the White House put out this really triumphant statement. They were celebrating what looked like another fantastic month of job creation. I mean, the official numbers looked great, and it seemed to confirm that whole strong economy story.
But then came the revisions. That initial report of 147,000 jobs created in June, it got slashed to just 14,000. And the 144,000 from May, that was revised down to only 19,000. So those big triumphant headlines were based on numbers that turned out to be off by a mind-blowing 90%.
And this is where it gets really, really concerning. The economist Mark Zandi points out that we've crossed a historical red line. By that same month, more than half, over 53% of all industries in the U.S. were actually cutting jobs. And as he says, in the past, whenever we've hit that tipping point, well, it turned out we were already in a recession.
So if all these industries were cutting jobs, where was the growth even coming from? Well, the data shows it was dangerously narrow. Pretty much all of the gains were concentrated in just 4 areas, a lot of them tied to government spending. And that makes the economy feel a lot less like a solid pyramid and, well, more like a wobbly Jenga tower that could fall over at any second.
This data really paints a picture that a lot of people feel in their gut. As one person on an economics forum put it, and pretty bluntly, with healthcare for an aging population driving so much of the growth, it kind of feels like the U.S. is just becoming one giant nursing home.
So on top of all these conflicting signals, we have 2 massive wildcards that are making it almost impossible to predict what's going to happen next. Growing political uncertainty, and of course, the explosion of AI.
Now, according to the sources, several political moves are pumping major risk into the system. First, constant back and forth over tariffs makes it impossible for businesses to plan ahead. Second,
publicly attacking the Federal Reserve, the very institution that's supposed to stabilize the economy, well, that spooks markets. And third, casting doubt on official government data, that erodes the basic trust that our entire financial system is built on.
And then you have AI. It's a total paradox. On the one hand, you see headlines about AI directly replacing workers, causing layoffs, especially in tech. But on the other hand, there's this growing argument that AI itself is just another tech bubble that's waiting to pop.
A huge part of that bubble argument comes down to cost. AI is incredibly expensive to run. As one user pointed out, it may have already driven up electricity prices in the US by 4% in just 1 year. The theory goes that if those immense costs were ever fully passed on to you and me, the whole system might just prove to be completely unaffordable. You know, just like we've seen with other bubbles in the past.
Okay, so with all these contradictions, the good, the bad, the weird, what does this actually mean for you? For me, for the average person just trying to figure out their financial life?
Let's go back to that strong business travel sector for a second. Who are these travelers, really? You might be picturing some high-flying CEO in a suit, right? But the data tells a really surprising story. A full third of them have household incomes under $50,000 a year. It's just a powerful reminder that our economy is really powered by everyday working people.
And yet, here's the other side of that coin. It's the deep financial anxiety that so many people are feeling. One person shared this really personal story about their parents, who built up a $3 million nest egg. But they said they'll spend all of it on healthcare and travel, and me and my siblings won't see a dime. It's just this stark picture of wealth being consumed by costs instead of being passed on.
So, this is where we are. It kind of feels like we're all standing together in an airport terminal, just staring up at the departures board. One flight is boarding right now, taking off toward prosperity and growth. But the other flight, it's just indefinitely delayed, stuck in a fog of uncertainty. And the crazy part is, we have no idea which flight we're actually on.
So, maybe the most important question isn't whether the experts are going to call this a boom or a bust. In an economy with two completely different realities existing at the same time, the real question is, which reality are you living in, and which one is going to define your future?